Live better and longer with the Fitzness Show, hosted by fitness expert, author, and TV personality Fitz Kohler. She'll tell you why diets are dumb, supplements are snake oil, and the truth about how you can earn a lean, hard, pain-free, and athletic body. Now for our favorite bossy blonde, Fitz Kohler.
Well, hi, team. I'm Fitz Kohler, your super bossy fitness pro and race announcer from fitzness.com. And welcome to the Fitzness Show. Today, we are going to recap the St. George Marathon, which I just had the fantastic pleasure of announcing this weekend in St. George, Utah. Absolutely beautiful, so much fun. And I have some maybe heartwarming stories to share, and then a really funny one, including a big whoopsie daisy by yours truly. And it's okay to do the whoopsie daisies, right? Perfect is boring and human error. I'm the queen of human error, and it's okay. We had a great time of it. We had a great time. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe to the Fitzness Show wherever you listen, whether it's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Podbean or wherever you listen. Just click subscribe. And then every time I release a show, you'll get a notification that Fitz has made some happy noise. And then, you can be a part of that, right? Sometimes I'm answering your fitness questions or bragging about my great races or interviewing celebrities. Oh, and by the way, book number 5, which I'm about to release the title and the cover, is due out soon. So make sure you're also following me on Fitzness on Instagram, because you will be first to see that cover. And I will have some pre-sale perks for my first book buyers. So anyways, that's coming soon. So let's talk about St. George. So I've never announced this race before. It was something that kind of came out of the blue. They have a typical race announcer who was unavailable this weekend. And so they found me, and I'm so glad they did. I've heard such wonderful things. In fact, once I announced that publicly that I would be announcing this race, I had several of my race directors reach out to say, oh my gosh, Fitz, you're in for such a treat. It's a beautiful area. It's such a well-organized event weekend, and everything is top tier, and they nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. I couldn't be more pleased with my experience and looking forward to telling you all about it. So before I get to the racy race part, I tell you that I flew into Vegas. So I live in Gainesville, Florida. I always fly to Atlanta first and then wherever I'm going. I'm a Delta lady, right? So I go to Atlanta, then I fly into Las Vegas. St. George has an itsy bitsy teeny weeny airport. And honestly, it just would have been really complicated and wildly expensive for that organization for me to fly directly into St. George. So I flew to Vegas and rented a car. And what a lovely drive. I mean, I don't know if you've been out there, but it was so pretty. And I'm not a big fan of driving a long way. It's not my cup of tea. I don't enjoy it. It's not fun for me. But this was a beautiful drive, such a fantastic part of the country. In fact, as I got close to St. George, I was on the Utah side of things. I was driving through this big, crazy mountain situation. And for a Floridian, it's a little crazy to drive through a mountain situation. I was going kind of deeper, and the mountains were getting higher all around me. And I don't know. It's a little intimidating. I'm not an intimidatable person typically, but it's a big deal. It's a kind of place where you're driving and you keep your foot on the brake, even though you're going 50 miles per hour. I don't know how you drive 50 with your foot on the brake the whole way, but that's the situation headed to St. George, because there's some loop-de-loops through what I've been told is called the gorge. I didn't know what it was. I just thought I'm in a serious situation here on the highway. Well, I don't know if it was dangerous. I mean, it was a nicely taken care of highway. Sometimes I'm out in no man's land and there's pothole galore. In fact, I could trash a few of our states, but I don't really want to do that. But oh my gosh, I've been on highways recently in my travels where I thought, shame on this state. I'm going to write a letter to the governor and let them know what I think about their roads. I've never done that, but in my mind, I've thought it. But the roads between Vegas and St. George are absolutely fantastic. Again, just to get a little hairy, a little spicy in a place called the Gorge. And we'll get back to that later. But beautiful ride. And before I went to my hotel, once I arrived in St. George, I went to a place called Snow Canyon, which is so beautiful. It's a multi-mile stretch of red rocks and dunes. And in Florida, dunes are just big piles of sand up against the beach or right on the shore. And dunes here are smooth, round rocks, I don't even know the words because I'm not from there. I don't live mountain life. You know what I'm saying? But it's a kind of a graduated entrance to the top of the mountain. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun to run around on those things because if you're climbing a normal mountain, it's rocky and dangerous and you think things are going to fall out from underneath you. But this is just, I'm terribly describing it. You know what I'm saying? It's smooth and you can just walk like a normal person without too much risk of falling. So I enjoyed it. I was out there for a couple of hours. I got some good exercise, which I really appreciated after being in the air all day and then driving for hours, and just to get outside was awesome. To get my butt moving and my legs stretched out was fantastic. But there I am on Snow Canyon, and I'm envisioning this place has got to be pretty fantastic in the winter. Oh my gosh, can't imagine what it looks like covered with snow. And so I went into, they have a little visitor center, and I thought, well, I'm going to go in there. I also wanted to use the restroom, but I went in to learn some things. You know, you got to go in the visitor center and they will normally expose you to something you may not have known if you just were on your own. So I go in and ask the lady, I said, what? This place must be beautiful when it snows here in Snow Canyon. And she goes, oh, it rarely snows. And I've said, no, it's called Snow Canyon. You've got to have some snow. I'm sure of it. And she said, no, we don't. It's just named after the guy who found the canyon. His last name was Snow. And what is that? I mean, kudos to him. But if your name is Snow and you're going to a place with no snow, I thought it was trickery. I thought it was shenanigans and hijinks and not very polite to take advantage of the innocent Floridian coming over to enjoy the sights and imagine what this wintry Utah place looks like in the snow. But apparently Snow Canyon has no snow. And I was a little disappointed by that. But whatever, I'm going to let that go because the rest of it was pretty cool. But yeah, so I got there. And this is the other thing I really like about St. George Marathon Weekend is that it's put on by the city of St. George. And everyone I worked with was so nice. I'm so grateful to show up as the newcomer and have such warmth greet me. I mean, I get a lot of warmth, a lot of wonderful, and as a race announcer, there really are some wonderful people, but sometimes people are not very friendly. I'm sure they pay me a lot of money and they say, here, come on in and bring your energy, bring your joy, bring your love to our start and finish lines and make this place more professional and more happy and make our runners have a great experience. And so I say, yeah, I want to come do that. And then inevitably there's somebody there who's territorial or turf guarding, and then they're not nice to me. And it's just, oh, it's excruciating. It really is. I mean, I don't cry. I do my job. But sometimes those people try to interfere with my job. They're like, we don't want the new girl. We're going to make her life miserable. Nobody in St. George did that. Everybody was flipping fabulous. They were kind and they were friendly and they were supportive and encouraging. And oh, it was such a breath of fresh air. Such a breath of fresh air from the first person I met on that team to the last. They were all just as nice and kind and intelligent and hardworking and capable and team playering, if that's a word. They were fantastic. So I just I was I was delighted. It was such a nice place. And for that reason alone, I could tell you to go run the St. George Marathon Weekend because the people putting it on are awesome people. And that's kind of where it starts, right? It's a beautiful location. It goes from, I think it's 5,400 feet in the sky, which to me is pretty much on the moon. And then it comes down towards, I think, 2,400 elevation, which is also pretty much on the moon. So it's a downhill race, but I don't know. I really like nice people and they were great. They were so great. I had a wonderful dinner with them the first night I got there, which was a super warm welcome. And then the next day I showed up for work. So work started for me at their expo. And if you're going to do this weekend, next year or in the future, you'll have something to look forward to because their expo is, oh gosh, I mean, it's full with quality vendors, which is a great start. I mean, sometimes races have a hard time getting enough businesses to showcase their products at an expo to fill it up. But this one, it's a big old convention center and there are many vendors of high quality. They have the St. George Running Center, which is their premier running store, and they brought, I mean, just the running center alone I felt like they brought their whole store. I don't know if they had any items left in their store because what was available at the expo, but they had a whole booth for Hoka and a whole booth for Diodora and a whole booth for Koros. And all of these elite brands had their own specific representatives manning those brands. And then, of course, it was just all the stuff, the tees and the tanks and the chafing anti-chafing balm, right? And nutrition and things you might have left at home when you got on your plane and flew to Utah to do this race weekend. They had it all, which was wonderful. And then there was a whole bunch of fun little vendors. There was the Jerk brand selling headbands. It's so funny. I love fun names. I will buy your product if you have a clever nickname for it. That said, even if it's a terrible product, I don't want, if it has a fun brand, I may give you some money. And so they've got these little headbands, men's and women's headbands in a bazillion different colors and designs. They're supposed to keep the sweat out of your face. And people want that, right? Nobody wants sweat in their eyes while they're trying to run a long way. So they had great stuff there. One of the things that's very popular right now are the Hawaiian shirts, button-down Hawaiian shirts in tech fabric. And so that's something the fun people are wearing, these busy, loud Hawaiian shirts. And I appreciate it. I do appreciate it when people dress up for race day, whether they're wearing fun costumes, but a collared shirt really lets me know that you have respect for us. So lots of those there. And then I stumbled across this booth it was a pretty baby blue and yellow booth, and it had "Harry is scary" on it. And so I made a beeline for the guy. And part of my role at the expo is not only to make informative announcements to tell athletes, look for your buses or the races are going to start at this time, whatever. But I plug every vendor and I make an announcement that everyone in the convention center can hear and encourage people to come visit each of these vendors. I brag about them, promote them, plug them, whatever. You put your word on it. But I see this booth and it says "Harry is scary." And I thought, okay, I got to know. And it's a shaving brand designed for men. So it's got these really sturdy razors with Swedish metal and super plastic handle. They're heavier than normal. And then they have these products, these shaving cream and lotion and exfoliation products steering mostly towards men who want to shave their chest and their arms and their legs. And I know a lot of endurance athletes do that. I guess they're cutting off time. I don't know. I'm not a man, so I don't know all of the things, but I really like their brand. And so I actually made a little video for them while on site. You can find it on Instagram. It's called Bolt Shave is the brand, but Harry is scary. I thought it was cute. And they gave me a hat, which I will wear all the time and probably confuse people, but I like it. Again, a fun brand that has a meaningful product, and Bolt Shave, go give them a try. But yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. And then they had this huge runner lounge. Runner lounge is filled with couches and comfy chairs and then plastic chairs. I don't know if they were comfortable or not, but they were there. And they had a big video, a huge monster flat screen so people could sit in the lounge and watch video of previous race weekends and kind of get the gist of what they were in for. There was Coca-Cola product machine. That's right. You could go get yourself a Diet Coke at any point during this expo for free, which I love. Thank you, Coca-Cola. In fact, they had a whole bunch of Coke products on the fountain drink squirter thing. Again, I'm losing words, but you can make yourself a fountain drink. I like that very much. They had free posters. So for the collectors, they have these beautiful St. George Marathon posters, big ones that anyone could just come and grab. They had thousands of them. And I know a lot of people want to hang those things in their office or in their bedroom or frame them. It was just really nice. It was all of the stuff. And they had constant photo opportunities. So step and repeat backdrops. Step and repeats are the backgrounds you see celebrities posing in front of, right? And you see a lot of that. But then they had the big, giant 13.1 statue and 26.2 statue and big statues that say, "I love St. George." I'm not finding words tonight. I apologize. But you know what I'm saying. A ton of spots and some digital photo booths, just fun. They're giving an opportunity for you to get more involved and have more of an experience. It's not just about showing up to a start line and some dude with a bullhorn like go, and then you get ignored through the finish line. This is a full, all-encompassing event. And it's just they thought of everything and they really cared. They also really cared about their merchandise. They had official merch that I fell in love with instantly. I walked up to their booth and they had these warm-up suits, kind of ivory based with stripes, kind of rainbow stripes, but not the typical rainbows. They were different muted colors, purple and green and whatever. But if you're familiar, there's a very posh sportswear brand called Aviator Nation. I love Aviator Nation, but golly, their stuff is so pricey. I mean, a hoodie costs $175. It's very pricey and I love it. That's what I want you to know. It makes me very sad that it's so expensive because I want a lot of it. If anyone's just bored and you have $200 to throw away, send me an Aviator Nation something or other. I wear a size small, right? I mean, I just love the stuff. I have Aviator Nation sweatpants and shorts. Those are my two prized possessions from that brand. But anyways, I go in there and their official merch, this warm up is I'm gonna call it a knockoff of the Aviator Nation style, and it's beautiful. And it's some of the most fun gear I've ever seen at a race. And they care, right? They just care. They wanted it to be nice for the athletes, and they sold a lot of stuff. People were going crazy over the products, and they had stickers and hats and mugs and all the thing. It was well done. It was really well done. Also, they have a sister marathon. It's the Ibigawa Marathon in Japan. That's right, Ibigawa. Say that 3 times fast. But this is a race weekend that happens at a different part of the year, but they do an exchange. So every year, the champions of male and female half and full marathon winners, and I think the Masters champs, I could be getting that wrong. They get a complimentary trip from the States to Ibigawa, Japan to run their race. And then the similar champions of the Ibigawa Marathon weekend, they get a free trip to St. George Marathon weekend, which is just so clever. It's a great exchange. I used to announce the Big Sur Marathon weekend, and they had a similar exchange with the Dubrovnik Marathon, and it was awesome. It was just a really cool thing. And can you imagine you win a race and you get a free trip to Japan or America? Either way, awesome stuff. So those athletes, they come to America and they stay with host families, and the St. George Marathon folks put on several special luncheons and dinners and so forth. I mean, they really make a stink over these people. They actually have during the expo, they have a luncheon for all the international athletes. We had 13 different countries represented. In fact, we had 47 states represented. I don't know which 3 were not there, but shame on them because they blew it. 13 countries. And yeah, those are those stats I wanted to share. But it's just really a good experience. And then in the evening on Friday, that's when they do their 5K. And the 5K is just, a city race. It's through town. We had, I believe, 700 athletes. And I love that stuff. I mean, this 5K is pretty casual. It was right outside the convention center, and I got to get to know many of the athletes as they walked up. And it was very funny watching our team put up the arch. So the arch, one of the zippers was undone, and they didn't know it. Of course, I didn't know it either, but they were trying to get this arch up, and it virtually had a hole because the zipper wasn't there. And it was just hilarious watching them get the arch halfway up, and it would collapse, and they're scratching their head, and then they gave up on putting the arch up. And I just told everybody, okay, we're going to have to imagine there's a start arch. And then as they pulled the arch to the side, they realized the zipper was undone, and then they went back. But it's just, it's just fun, right? It's a good time, good spirits. Nobody freaked out. Nobody cursed. Nobody went all Karen on anybody for not having the arch up perfectly. It eventually got there, but in the meantime, we had a lot of fun with the struggles, right? It was a happy environment, which I love. Also, if you've listened to my show before, you are not unfamiliar with the fact that I'm a raging patriot and I worship freedom and this country like no other. And so I love it when our athletes sing the anthem. In fact, I'm always, even if we have a professional singer, I'm always encouraging, come on, sing along. It's your anthem, right? So we did not have a singer. And I could have played Leanne Rimes or, oh God, Lee, uh, God bless the USA, that guy. I could have played his version. But anyways, I just decided we're going to sing it together. And so I asked the crowd, I said, do we have any patriots? And a lot of woohoo. And there was some man who was being a little silly before in a Purdue shirt. So I said, all right, Purdue, come over here. And he had no idea what he was in for. But I said, Purdue, you're going to help kick off the anthem. And you could just see this guy's face die. He said, oh my God. I said, you're only going to have to sing the first 4 words. You know the first 4 words? And he said, yeah. So put the microphone in front of his face and he belted out a big, oh, say, can you see? Which I love. I mean, imagine if somebody put a microphone in your face, would you have the courage in front of 1,000 people to sing even 4 words? Definitely scare some people, but I like putting people on the spot. I like challenging people. I like encouraging them to live up to something beyond what they believe they're capable of. That's what I do, right? I yank the best out of people. I like to poke, prod, encourage, but sometimes I'll yank and shake you and kind of force you to be awesome. So he was willing to be forced to be awesome, which I so appreciated. And then everybody else, it was their job. I told them, you have to sing loud and proud. And it's very cute. Without someone leading, sometimes the front and the back of the crowd, they're singing at different times, but then they got together and it was just gorgeous, just gorgeous. I love hearing Americans sing the anthem. It's the prettiest sound ever. And they finished real strong. Land of the free and the home of the brave is just beautiful. So congratulations, all of our 5K athletes. They were rock stars, not only going the distance for their 5K, but they sang beautifully and they just were fun and happy. And we had a lot of laughs leading up to the start, which I appreciate. Yeah, when people are willing to have a good time with me, that allows me to do what I do best. And it's just a lot of fun. So we go over to the finish line. And I have to tell you, the other real highlight for me was my sound guy. So sound guy actually has a shirt, a collared shirt because he's fancy. And on the back, it says sound guy, but his name is Sean. And he was assigned to do sound for me all weekend. And another person who was just kind and hardworking. And he had incredible expertise. And he was supportive and he was fun and funny and sarcastic, which I love. It's just, he did his job so well that I never had to struggle to do my job. You know what? It doesn't always go that way. So maybe someone doesn't have the expertise or they don't have the right equipment or they just have a bad attitude. There's a lot of people who just don't want to work hard. Sean showed up with the expertise and the equipment, and man, was he a freaking delight. And then we played my music, but he had his computer open, and so he was adding funny sound effects here or there. It was great. I would happily bring Sean all around the country with me to do sound. He was just such a fun guy who I will be sad until I see him again. He was that great. And whew, another thing that went really well. 5K was fantastic. Then we had the kids races. The kids were adorable. Not only does St. George do two distances for the kids, they have a 200-meter race, which is perfect for the 5 and under crowd. They have a mile distance race for the kids, 6 and over. But then they had 200-meter for adaptive athletes, and the same with a 1 mile. So it's just an opportunity for everybody to take part, which I love. And we will be right back. Wouldn't it be fun to feel like a celebrity on race day? Imagine if all the spectators between the start and finish line were calling your name. Well, they would if they could, and that's why you have to tell them by ordering the Name Bib Kit at penandpaces.com. It's a waterproof, tear-proof bib. You can put it on your chest. It comes with 2 sets of alphabet stickers for you to write your name. And so as you cruise on by, everyone can say, "Go Katie, go Jamal, go Susie," whoever you are, they're going to cheer for you. I promise. It's a special way to race. I ran the Boston Marathon with my name on my sports bra. Felt like everybody in the town of Boston was cheering, "Go Fitz." And I want that for you too. So head on over to penandpaces.com right now, order your race bib, and have the time of your life. We're back. We want everyone to be able to participate in sports no matter what your fitness level is. And so, sure, if you've got 2 functioning legs and you can run really fast, good for you. If you want to walk really slow, good for you. We welcome that. If you are in a chair and that's how you move, great. If you're on crutches, fantastic. We want you to take part. If you don't have the ability to push a chair forward, we have athletes who run with racing chariots and they push someone they care about. So that person can be in and can take part in our races. And it's just wonderful. So St. George covered all the bases, not only the big races, the longer distances. Did we have plenty of athletes with different capabilities? But then even with the kids races, they made the shorter distances available, which I love. I want everybody to show up at a start line. It was a lot of fun. You can see that lining up to these folks with different abilities meant so much to them, right? Their hearts were on fire, their eyes were bright, and they couldn't wait. For the mile, we had 3 folks in electric wheelchairs, and it just was so exciting to see them take off. It just very, very meaningful, and the joy on their face was worth a bazillion dollars and all the stuff. It was great. If you're a race director and you're listening, maybe add that, right? Or just make sure people know that they're welcome, right? Because I think sometimes people think perhaps they're not welcome. So advertise, hey, folks of all abilities, even in chairs. And it was great. It was great. So that was that night. I'm trying to think. Oh, I ate. We had a pasta. We had a party in the park with all the bounce houses and stuff. I mean, again, they really do up all the hoopla in St. George. And I went to a food truck to get my dinner, which was street corn. And they gave me the world's largest piece of corn on the cob on a stick. It was like, I don't know if you had a balloon at Disney World on a stick, that size corn, which was pretty incredible. I don't know what kind of corn situation is happening in Utah. Maybe they're just closer to the corn growing states than I am at Florida, but I've never seen corn that large. And I will tell people about it probably for the rest of my life. This corn on the cob experience. It was great. So, okay. So the next morning, they start these races up the mountain. So it's a point to point, 26.2 miles away from our finish line is the start of the marathon. And then 13.1 miles, as you can imagine, is the start of the half marathon. And they're in the mountains. And so I love starting start lines. In fact, start lines are typically my favorite part of race day because it's the only time where we're all together, right? When I have a huge group of people lined up. But at this point, it wasn't possible for me to start those races because they don't have the capacity to get me ahead of the group down the road. Anyways, you know what I'm saying? Like I'd yell go, all these people would run by me, and they have talked about perhaps grabbing a helicopter to fly announcer from one spot to the next, which I support fully. Yes, if I'm ever invited back and you want to, yeah, I don't even need to be in the helicopter. You could just put like the little Coast Guard pants on me with the straps and just fly me across the mountain. That would be super fun. I would definitely do that. And I would bring my cowbell and just ring it the whole time. And all of Utah would be confused. And I might be confused for an alien since very close to that's at Area 51. That would be a lot of fun. Anyways, I wasn't able to start the races, but those folks had a great time. They get shuttled up the mountain. And then when they're up there at the start line, it's kind of like a campfire situation. So they've got campfires and I think they have music and maybe they have marshmallows. I'm not sure, but it's lovely and cozy and they make friends. And I believe they drink coffee. And then before they start, there are professional drone shows. So up in the sky, instead of listening to someone like me yammer on, they have this incredible drone show performing to them or for them. And then I don't know, someone says go, maybe I'm not sure, but then the people go and then they start running towards me, which is the most important thing they could do. Right. So everybody loved their drone show start line, which sounds super cool. And yeah, maybe check it out on YouTube. I bet you can find it there, but it was great. So I go straight to the finish line, which I just had to make peace with, right? I won't be able to start, but I will be at the finish line and I can be excited about that. So we're there in the center of town, which is a nice place to be. The first thing is a mayor's walk. So the mayor, she and a bunch of folks, they walk a mile from one place to our finish line. And I found it very funny that some of the people that did the mayor's walk were running and they came through and I jokingly but scolded them. I was like, "What are you doing running? Cut it out. You're supposed to be walking." And they were very confused by those words that I gave them in the morning. But I was like, "It's a walk. What are you doing?" But yeah, we had some walkers. We had some scooter riders, which for that moment was okay. If you ride a scooter during our finish line or in our finish line while the full and half marathoners come through, then no can do. We're not going to have a fun time with you. But yeah, the mayor came through with a bunch of folks and it was just a nice easy peasy start to the morning. Those folks got to go have some sort of, I think it was a scone breakfast in the new gazebo. I mean, hi, St. George. Everything is extra. And when I say extra, I mean extra good, extra clever and creative. And then our half marathoners started coming through and we had so much speed. In fact, I kind of blew it. I was talking to the crowd and I said it was about 56 minutes into the half marathon. Both the half and full started at the same time, just 13.1 miles apart. But I was telling the crowd, I said, I don't know what kind of talent we have out there today. We do have elites, but I'm predicting our first half marathoner will come through at about 108. That's my guess. And so I say that, and then I go to the side and I decide I'm going to start making sponsor announcements, just saying thank you, Coca-Cola and Intermountain Health and so forth. And then all of a sudden I hear people cheering. I look around, 59 minutes on the clock. There's an athlete charging towards the finish line, and he broke a course record. So that was Kevin Kirk, finished the half marathon 1 hour and 21 seconds, which is wicked fast. I believe the fastest half marathon ever is somewhere in like a 59-minute mark. So he was cooking. He was cooking. It really surprised me. I had to get up and hustle over to my little station to welcome him in, and I caught him, but I was very surprised. And then our female champion, Savannah Berry, she won at 108.38, which so I was right. I just got it wrong because I thought the men were going to come in at 108, but she was cooking. And then our full marathon, we also had our course records broke. So it's a big deal when your course record is broke. It's the fastest anyone's ever run that distance on this course ever. And so 50% of our half marathon records went down, they fell. And then for the marathon, Jordan Bird, one of my teammates, he came over and he said, "Hey, Jake Heslington is in the lead. He was our last year's champion, and it looks like he's going to break his own course record." So as of last year, he had the fastest time. And then this year, he came through full marathon in the mountains. So it's net downhill, but there's also a big uphill part. Like you have to earn the second chunk of downhill. He ran that full marathon 2 hours, 13 minutes, 56 seconds, which is wild. And then the women's course record was also broken. That was Cody Cleven, and she ran it at 2:28:41. So just fast, super fast. And then next year, it's going to be even more impressive because you know what? They're increasing their prize purse to $100,000. So if you are a speedster and you want to go somewhere and earn some money, go run St. George 2026 because they're having $100,000 as a purse because it'll be their 50th anniversary race. Just big stuff there, big stuff, and it's fun to be a part of that, right? We like speed. I mean, I'm I prefer the slow folks, and that's no secret. I love the back of the pack. I love the gritty people. I love the strugglers, and gosh, it's so much harder physically and mentally to be a 7.5 hour marathoner than it is a 3.5 hour marathoner. Of course, it's technically difficult to be a speedster, but anyways, it was incredible. And one of my favorite athletes of the day, gosh, I have so many, but Ashley Paulson, who's been a guest on my show twice. She's someone who we literally met at the finish line of the LA Marathon. I was announcing, and she was our first American female American through the finish line. But we kind of fell in love within about 3 seconds of just laying eyes on each other, and we genuinely just care about each other. I've only seen her in person once, so she's been on my show twice, and then I saw her this year. She ran the OC Marathon, and so I welcomed her through the finish, and then I ran down to get a hug. And if you don't know who Ashley is, just go back and listen to those 2 interviews. They're outstanding, and she is one of, if not the finest ultra marathoners in the entire world. That's men and women alike. She's incredible, and she runs with so much joy, and she's a nice girl, and she's encouraging, and she's just such a special person. And she's from St. George. She lives there. So it was great to see her, but she came running through. And if you've been paying attention, I frequently will grab people that I know or even strangers and escort them through the finish line just to help make them feel a little special, put their hand up in the air. Ta-da. And so I see Ashley coming, and I'm making a big announcement, telling everybody who she is. And so she gets close to me, and I put out my hand and went running through the finish line with her. And let me tell you, it was the fastest I've ever had to run with anyone. And so sometimes at the end of a 5K, 3.1 miles, athletes have a lot of gas in their tank, especially if they're accustomed to running further distances and they can go fast. But I've never, ever had to run as fast to keep up with one of the athletes I was escorting because she is just, oh my gosh, just smoke coming off of her. She is so speedy and again, so much joy. So I reached out to my friends at Marathon Photo, our race photographer. And I said, "Hey, can you grab me some of my pics?" And they said, "Absolutely." So I should get those soon and I will post them online. In fact, I was able to escort quite a few of our athletes and my friends through the finish lines, which it's just such a nice thing to do. I just really love everybody. And I sound like a broken record perhaps, but Heidi Arellano, who I've met a couple of times out on the course, I think she ran Fargo, but she brought a big group of athletes, about 20, I think their run club is called We Run Happy, but what a nice person. And she supports so many other athletes. So ran with her and, everybody else I could get my hands on. But my situation was awesome because if you think about a finish line shoot, and usually people are running through the finish line just in any fashion they want, they just go through. Well, St. George breaks it up for a while. So on the right side of the finish line is the half marathoners, and on the left side is a full marathon. And quite a few of my races do that, which actually makes it a lot easier for me to do my job because I can see who's running where, and it helps me differentiate uh, who has run which race. But they had these little kind of gates set up in the middle. They were branded, but to separate the either side of the finish line chute. And so I was able to set up there. They had my iPad and I had a tripod, thanks to Sean, the sound guy. And I was able to just stand right there in the middle. And it was a perfect situation. I got to be right where I wanted to be. I got to stare all the athletes in the face and make great contact and welcome them appropriately, even better than I than if I'm off to the side on the stage. I mean, it was just really a dream setup for me. And I loved getting to connect with everybody. The other thing is with my position, I'm always best seat in the house. I have the bird's eye view of the finish line to protect the finish line from people who shouldn't be in there. And then also to support our athletes when they need it. And you'd be surprised how many people hit the last 20 feet of their full marathon or half or whatever, and then their legs give out. They're almost at the finish line, and then it's not going to happen. And so because I'm down on the ground, I'm able to go catch people, protect them from hitting the ground, or grab their hand or throw my shoulder underneath their armpit to help them across, which I can do. I physically can do. And why wouldn't I? Right. So I was in such a great situation. They actually were going to start removing the splitters. And I asked them, I said, can we leave it the way it is? Because it's great. It's a perfect setup. And they did. And I just had a wonderful day. And our athletes, I mean, of course we had the speedsters, right? But then I don't know. I was addressing something on the half marathon side, and out of the corner of my right eye, I see this woman come by, and she's an amputee on a running blade. And she's got one leg, and then one running blade leg. And she's on fire. She flew through the finish line. Just so impressive. And, sometimes not sometimes, almost all the times when I have spectators out there, I like to include spectators in the conversation. I always ask how many people have run a race, how many people have never. And so many people say, I can't do a 5K. I can't. And then I say, just keep an eye on the finish line. You're going to see someone who looks just like you doing this, maybe even the longest distance, right? And then maybe you're going to see someone who looks less capable than you. And certainly this woman with the amputee with the blade, she wasn't less capable than anybody, but I think it's a real eye-opener for a spectator who is unfamiliar with the running community to see someone missing a leg do a full marathon. All of a sudden, they may start second-guessing their lame excuses that I can't. Mentality starts to diminish when they see someone out there like that, not only going the distance, but doing it with such expertise, right? She just, blew by. On the half marathon side, I almost missed him, but a man came by. Usually they wear a vest, but he was a blind runner, meaning he had no vision or limited vision. And he was surrounded by athletes that escorted him, supported him from the start to the finish line. It's just great. Quite often you'll see the support runners wear a vest that says guide. None of them had the guide vest, but yeah, you could tell he could not see, and they got him through 13.1 miles. I mean, imagine if you just had to close your eyes and cross the street one day, but you were going to go do a whole race and you were going to run. I mean, probably the fear of falling, it's got to be pretty tricky up front, unless I guess you've been visually impaired your whole life, and then I guess you're used to it. But it's just phenomenal, right? So we've got the amputee, and then we have the blind runner, and then we had Vera come through. Vera, who's Vera? You ask. Well, Vera is finishing the half marathon 90 years young. 90. And we will be right back.
Are you looking for the perfect gift for a loved one battling cancer? The Cancer Comeback Series by Fitz Kohler offers hope, inspiration, and practical guidance. With Your Healthy Cancer Comeback, My Noisy Cancer Comeback, and The Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal. These books are a lifeline for all patients and survivors. Right now, you can order autographed copies at a special discount. Show your support and help a loved one go from sick to strong. Visit fitzness.com today. That's FITZNESS.com. Fitzness.com.
We're back. Yeah, 90 doing the half marathon, not the 5K, not the little race for the kids, 90 half marathon. So I ask you, what's your excuse? I got to know, what's your legitimate excuse? I'm not telling you have to do a half, maybe a 5K, right? Are you one of those people who says, I can't do it? Well, stop, cut that out right now, because you absolutely can. And if you come to one of my finish lines, you check it out and you go, oh, yeah, maybe I can. I think our oldest full marathoner was Waldo, and he was 84. I mean, we had plenty of people in their 80s. Again, only one person in their 90s, but wow, right? It's just a wonderful day. It's interesting how many people come over and they say, I don't know how you keep up the energy. And I think, oh my gosh, I can keep up this energy because this is the most exciting place I've ever been, right? When I'm at a finish line and all these people are exercising, which I love, which I live for, right? Which I beg society to do exercise. Now I'm there, and every type of person from every type of place has shown up to exercise, and they're doing it. I am so jacked up. I am so jacked up. In the best way possible. Humans running or exercising are like crack cocaine to me. I'm just addicted, and I get more and more excited as the day goes by because the stories become more interesting as we go. So it was a beautiful day. It got warm. but it was fun and happy, and people. This is interesting. These spectators were so good, and sometimes I have to encourage the spectators, "Hey, guys, let's make some noise for these athletes," type things. I always tell them their assignment is to go home with sore hands and sore throats. That's their job. Their bestie, their loved one, their pal is out running hard for X amount of miles. The least they could do is go home with sore throats. So cheering was not an issue in St. George. In fact, at some point, I could not think over some of their screams. They were screaming and cheering so loud that I would just laugh and think, okay, I'm just going to shut up. I'm just going to say nothing because they're doing it all for me. And so it was possibly, it was top 5 best spectator situations I've ever had as a race announcer. They were wild. They were wild. So beautiful day and happy people. And then once people crossed the finish line, of course, they got the chocolate milk. That Cache Valley Creamery gave them cheese, and there were creamies, some sort of popsicles. There were Coke products. There were loaves of bread. Everybody got a loaf of bread. The medals were huge. It was awesome. Congratulations to the city of St. George. Next year is going to be 50, and I know it will be even better if that's possible. But wow, they put so much thought and so much effort, and it's a true team effort, and it was just a privilege to be a part of it, even for one weekend. I loved it. So congrats on that. Now, after the finish line shuts down, I head to my hotel, get a shower, because at night they have a legacy banquet. They count anyone who's done 10 or more of their 49 races so far in their legacy program. And each year they have a banquet, and they honor those who have hit the 10-year, 20-year, 30-year, 40-year mark. I'm sure next year, I'm hoping someone's going to hit the 50 mark. I wonder if they still have a legacy athlete who's gone all 49. But anyways, it's a monster dinner with hundreds and hundreds. In fact, I was told there was 800 to 900 people at this dinner that I was to be hosting, which is great for me. You know how some people are getting nervous in groups now. The bigger the better, the more comfortable I am. And it was nice. It was a sit down meal. Well, there was a buffet, I guess, but then everybody sat and ate. And the game plan was to thank everybody, and then they had about 30 something raffle prizes, baskets full of wonderful goodies that people could put a raffle ticket in. And we did these just constant drawings to give away nice things to people. It was very generous, very well organized. They had photos for the 10, 20, 30, 40 year inductees. And then we recognized each of those people. They got another medal. I mean, it was constantly giving away nice things. But then they had these special awards. And at the beginning of the show, I warned you of a whoopsie, a real whoopsie daisy. So as I arrived, I sat down with the team and we went over the agenda. And one of the questions I had, I said, okay, I'm giving away these 3 awards. I don't know what the awards mean, and I don't know why these people are getting them. So could you make me some notes? Yeah, sure. And Michelle, I love Michelle. Michelle, it's the person who brought me in. So Michelle, she actually writes pretty good notes, and in ink. She's just kind of scribbling on the paper, and she's very like, I hope you can read my chicken scratch. And I say, yes, I can. And what I'm to believe is that there's an award. It's the Debbie Zockel Award being given to Debbie Royce through her daughter, Mindy. So this is what I'm understand as I read Michelle's notes. What I see is that Debbie Royce has died, and her daughter, Mindy, is accepting the Debbie Zockel Award for her. So it's a Debbie Zockel Award. Debbie Royce has died. Mindy's going to accept it on her behalf. And so, I've been up on this microphone for, I don't know, maybe an hour now. I'm pretty comfortable in front of the group. I'm like, okay, blah, blah, blah. The next award is the Debbie Zockel Award. Mindy, can you come up? So Mindy, she looks a little surprised, but she gets up and she comes up to the stage, and I tell everybody, well, Mindy's going to accept the Debbie Zockel Award for her mother-in-law, Debbie Royce, who I go, she passed away recently, right? And Mindy goes, no, she's over there. All of a sudden, Debbie Royce stands up. She goes, I'm here. And I yell out, she's alive, like that. And the whole place just fell apart. So I completely read that script wrong. I don't know why I got it so wrong. And Michelle and the folks there were pretty kind, but there were 2 Debbies. So I just had the wrong Debbie who died. It was Debbie Zockel who had passed away, and that the award was on her honor. And Debbie Royce was very much alive and very much there to accept her own awards. So everybody cheered for Debbie Royce being alive. It went from kind of a sad moment to a very celebratory moment. And Debbie Royce was just jumping up and down, proving that she was alive. And it was hilarious. It was so funny. It was so funny. And you know what? One of the best things for me is I am so accustomed to making these little mistakes. I mean, mistakes are going to happen. I show up at a race weekend and I must say 10 million words, right? And if you're going to say so many words, eventually you're going to get some of them wrong. And who cares? I'm not Angelina Jolie. If she's got a script and she's in a movie, she needs to nail it every time. I'm just a person talking, right? I tend to know what I'm talking about, and I do my best to relay information in a clear, enjoyable way and try to be entertaining. And then also I get all these names on the fly and I'm supposed to pronounce everybody's name correctly. And sometimes it goes wrong. And more often than not, though, it goes right. And I can't tell you how many athletes with complicated names, once I say it correctly, they yell out, "You got it." And then I feel like $1,000,000. I've got that name, right? So there's a lot of room for error doing what I do. But this was particularly silly for sure. Because again, it was like, and her mother-in-law just died. She was like, "No, she didn't. I'm alive." So yeah, so that happened and it was funny. It was funny. What can you do? And I think all the people in the room went home and told somebody they knew about the absurd announcer lady who totally butchered that situation. And yeah, it was so funny. I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Okay, so that was the nuts and bolts of my experience in St. George. It's just rich with joy and quality. And if you are looking for a wonderful race in Utah or the mountains or just those distances, I highly recommend. I give it 5 stars. It was fantastic. So thanks again for those who brought me in. Now, I had a little hiccup in my race weekend. So my 16-and-a-half-year-old dog, Piper, my best friend that I ever had, she has been struggling. She's been so fit her whole life. And over the past couple of months, her age has really shown. She's had a UTI and then she has had pancreatitis and then she kind of hurt her knee. And so Friday, I got a call that my son was rushing her to the University of Florida emergency veterinarian ER. She wasn't doing well. And as you can imagine, I was not happy about that. So I was supposed to fly home from Vegas at midnight on Sunday, right at the red eye to get me home Monday morning. And I just thought, oh gosh, that's not going to do. So on Friday night, I got on the phone with Delta crying and said, could you please help me? I can leave as early as Sunday morning. And so Delta, thank you so much. They got me on the 6 a.m. flight out of Vegas and through Atlanta. And then I would get home to Florida at 3:30 for Piper. Thankfully, Piper is doing much better now. So I'm happy to share that. She's not perfect, but she's improving, which I'm very grateful for. But with that 6 a.m. flight came a little bit of, well, it just made it a little complicated because I got done with that banquet at 8 p.m. And then I had to wake up at 2 a.m. to drive 2 hours through the night to get to the Vegas airport by 4 because I had a 6 a.m. flight. So a little nighttime extra. Honestly, no worse than taking a red eye because that's also exhausting. But driving through that gorge in the middle of the night, literally 2:30 a.m. was wild. It was really wild. I mean, nothing happened, but it was a bit intimidating during the brightest part of the day to go through that gorge in the middle of the night when it was just pitch black and moonlit. It was a full moon. It was pretty wild. It was beautiful, and the mountains just right up in your face, huge. I don't know, cool, and I don't know. I'm glad I'm a confident, independent traveling lady because I don't know how many people would want to go do that, but it was interesting. And then someone told me, it was Sean, the sound guy, told me about how people sometimes claim they see things flying through the sky since they were just a couple hours from Area 51. So as I was driving, I was definitely looking in the sky for some alien activity, which I'm sad to report, I did not witness any, but I was hoping. And then the other weird thing was I had to fill up the gas tank for the rental car before I dropped it off. And yeah, it is kind of eerie to pull up at 3:30 a.m. to this gas station in the middle of absolutely nowhere on the side of the highway to fill up. It just, some spooky stuff there. But I survived. It was all great. And when I arrived at my gate in Vegas, I ran into a friend from Gainesville and we flew home together. So Chris Lee, thanks for your company. He's a UFC judge. And we keep running into each other in various airports, which is awesome. So it's just nice to have a friend along the way. I don't mind being alone, but it's much more fun when you have a cool friend nearby. So anyway, that was my St. George marathon recap. I had a lot of fun and grateful for the opportunity. It was wonderful. Okay, fitzness show stuff. We end the show with a communication tip. And this is my communication tip of the show is be like the people in St. George. Be nice to newcomers. Try not to turf guard. Try not to be territorial. Be warm and friendly whenever possible. And you may make so many new friends that way. Try not to be competitive, off the cuff. If somebody's in your space, maybe be warm and friendly, and then they'll be a wonderful addition to your space. So I think that's something we can all do a little more of. And then the song of the show. Are you ready for it? Guess what's going to be song of the show? Taylor Swift, Opalite. How could I not? The biggest album of the year just came out and I've listened to it. Remember, she's won me over. I used to think she was unimpressive and now I think she's pretty impressive. But Opalite, it's a good upbeat tune and maybe you want to listen to it while you're on the stepper or the elliptical, like traditional car machines. It's good. It's got a good rhythm that you can pump the pedals to. So Opalite by Taylor Swift. Don't be too important, too big stuff to listen to the song. You're too cool for Taylor Swift. That's stupid. Listen to the song. You're probably going to like it. I'm going to add it to the Fitzness Spotify playlist. So just go there and then, you can claim to be a slight Swiftie too. Get over it. She's great. All right, guys, that's it. Remember, my brand new book is coming out soon. It's going to go on pre-sale as soon as I get that cover in my hand. If you haven't done so yet, follow me on Instagram. That cover is going to hit my wall any day now, and I think you're going to like it. And again, there will be perks for my pre-sale readers, which I'm excited to share those perks too, because they're really fun. I love you so much. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the show and get to work. I love you. Bye, team. Mwah.
Hi, this is Rudy Novotny, the voice of America's Marathons. We all love how much running has benefited every aspect of our lives, so much so that most of us only wish we'd started sooner. Wouldn't it be wonderful to gift the opportunity to children of today? Well, you can. The Morning Mile is a before-school walking and running program that gives children a chance to start each day in an active way while enjoying fun, music, and friends. That's every child, every day. It's also supported by a wonderful system of rewards, which keeps students highly motivated and frequently congratulated. Created by our favorite fitness expert, Fitz Kohler, Morning Milers across the country have run over 2 million miles and are having greater success with academics, behavior, and sports because of it. The Morning Mile is free to the child, free to the school, and is inexpensively funded by businesses or generous individuals. Help more kids get moving in the morning by visiting morningmile.com. Champion the program at your favorite school or find out more about sponsorship opportunities. That's morningmile.com. Long may you run.